You get scared of death. You wonder, is that all there is? Why are we born only to die? And see, I used to think there's nothing just going to be all black and, I've lived my life and I'm gone. I mean, I was scared to death. Now I can't wait. I'll be honest with you. I can't wait to go back. I'm not afraid. I didn't meet any family because that wasn't important. It was just what was important was just being.
Good evening. Welcome to Earth to the Other Side. My name is John Glaspel, your host. And tonight I have the pleasure of speaking with Jeanne E. Schneider, who had a near-death experience back in 2020, Thanksgiving of 2020. Jeanne, welcome to the channel. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely a pleasure. So tell me, what year was it that you had your NDE?
It was Thanksgiving night. It's about 2 years ago. Was, when you're in a hospital, time flies. Because the doctor asked me where my husband was. And I said he was falling asleep. I sent him home. So I said, why? What time is it? And he said, 2 o'clock. I'm like, well, no wonder. Yeah, I guess he wanted to tell my husband what he told me. He wanted to make sure he understood.
It must have been so painful, eh?
It was. I have to say it was a beautiful experience. And it changes people too. And it changed me a lot.
Yeah, I bet.
My colon poked a hole in my hernia. And then he said, you're going to have to operate. And I said, okay, when? And he said, right now. I was like, oh, because I figured there was going to be an appointment. So he said, right now. I'm like, okay. I did ask for prayer. And he said he couldn't do it for me. He did that. And then he told me that I could die. And it was, most people are like, oh, but I was like, oh, I can't explain it, but somebody brushed my hair back. It wasn't a human hand. And I just remember smiling and I closed my eyes and I was gone. Now, I don't know if I died. Nobody told me I did. Unless they didn't want to tell me. I don't know. But people talk about going through a tunnel. I didn't go through a tunnel. I was just there in the grass with that tree behind me. And there was water behind the tree. It was basically a feeling experience. And it's just like, wow. And people ask, did you see anybody from the family? I'm like, I'm going to sound cold. But when you're up there, it doesn't matter what's happening down here. it's not that I didn't love my family. It's like it wasn't important, if that makes sense. I saw this huge mountain and looked like 1 billion people with this, well, it was like it covers your whole body, but I don't know. I remember singing, there was singing, and I believe I might have joined in. What I got out of it is I do know that I was taught. I guess I'm not to remember everything that I was taught until the right time comes. Like, I think at one time, pastor said something about one day at a time. Now you hear that all the time, but this time I felt it. And I'm like, oh, okay, got it. So for a long time, I lived one day at a time. In other words, each day is a new day. You can't bring back the past. And worrying about the future is crazy because it might never happen. You know what I'm saying? If you're worrying about this is going to happen, that's going to happen, it's like it might not. So when I have a worry or a concern, I'm going to sound like a religious fanatic, but I give it to him and I just, come what may, I can't change it. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So I was the world's worst worry war, financial. My husband and what he does, and I just, things here aren't as important as important to me as it used to be. I just, to me, life. Well, I've always liked nature. See the beauty in the world instead of, it's not perfect here. There's murders and stabbing and evil. But when I take my walk with the dogs, I'm looking around at nature. I'm looking at the trees. I'm just enjoying God's gift to us. And, I'm sorry if I keep bringing him up, but he's part of what made me who I am. My parents did not raise me. He did. Every time I wanted to do something, because I was mad at my mother. One time I remember, and maybe you should too, she was afraid that I would start sleeping around. And I said, you know what? Maybe I will, to myself. And that'll teach her. He came down. Well, he said to me, if you do that, you'll only be hurting yourself. I have other quotes that I got directly. Okay. And my newest one was.
Was this like a thought that came from God and entered your head, or did it feel as though God was actually speaking to you and you heard a voice?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know if it was him, but I feel it was.
Mhm.
And I've also received, you don't have to see to believe. You have to believe. See.
Well put. Well
Yeah.
put.
All right. I didn't mean to start quoting God stuff, but he's shown me so much. And in my childhood, he gave me certain gifts, like I said, that I really, really, really didn't want. And years later, I can't remember. I happened to see a medium. He was a famous medium. He probably died. He apparently had a church in Kingston, New York. And I can't remember his name, but I remember going to the show. And he was describing how he found this little boy. I have that gift too. Anyway, before he even said where he found the boy, it's like I could see before he said. So it was scary until you learn to, okay, I'm not here to talk about that, right? I'm sorry.
The medium, what was the final message from this medium that you saw? Like, what did you take away from that?
Okay, well, before he said where he found the kid under the tree, I saw a little kid under the tree. And I still new, well, not new. I've had, like I said, experiences, but that was new to me. So I managed to find him after the show. And he says, before I open my mouth, he says, "You're a medium." I'm like, I mean, I didn't want any part of that, but as I started growing up, I realized that's what my gifts were. What I didn't like, what I still don't like, is knowing. I was 10 in sleeping camp, and thank God I was in sleeping camp. I preferred it there rather than home. And I woke up one morning. Oh, I was in a covered wagon. I loved it. I was in a covered wagon. We slept in covered wagons. And I woke up one morning. It was a little drizzly kind of rain. And I knew I was only 10. I knew something happened. And my grandmother usually went to our home from Florida to visit. So I remember writing home, "Is Grandma okay?" And my father wrote back saying, "Well, my sister and mother went to buy dresses. Nobody told me, but I'm still writing, is Grandma okay?" Make a long story short, when my mother picked me up to go home, she told me that my favorite uncle her brother had a heart attack and he was gone. Okay. I was only 10, so it's like, oh, that's my grandmother's son, by the way. So, I mean, that I thought, wow, years later, I miss him. My brother had pancreatic cancer. And I was working at Penny's at that time, and he was dying. I woke up on a Sunday morning, had this urge. I had to go to Penny's and buy my sister-in-law a nightgown. So I packed it up and mailed it Monday. This is when I was still living in New York, okay? And she lived in New Jersey. So I packed it up and I wrote a letter in my brother's name, so to speak, how she was a wonderful wife and, you know, I love you or whatever. Anyway, so I mailed that out on Monday. My sister calls me up on Tuesday to tell me that my brother passed. Well, I was like, oh my God, I felt so upset because I mailed that package out to my sister-in-law to kind of make her feel good. Oh, she got that on Wednesday. And I was raised Jewish, and we usually bury the person like in 2 or 3 days. So I think I was up in Plattsburgh. I take that back. I was up in Plattsburgh and she was in New Jersey. So we had to come down for the funeral. Now, a year before that, I don't have nightmares. Oh no, I'm getting into something else. That was about my mother. Anyway, so I go down to New Jersey and I couldn't sleep. I had a headache and I didn't want to keep my husband up. So I took a pillow and grabbed a sheet, went into the living room to try and sleep on the rug. Well, she goes up, she goes down. I can't breathe, but I'm cold. So I was up and down with the sheet over my face. And finally, you might not believe this, but I opened my eyes. My mother was a knitter, okay? She's all dark, but she would change bags, new bags she moved up. But this time she was in her Mouton coach with a paper bag. And she says, "What's the matter? Why can't you see me?" Oh, now I'm going into my mother here. I never finished my brother. Anyway, my sister-in-law, she thanked me for the nightgown. She said, if you could give her a gift, it would have been a nightgown. Anyway, back to my mother. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I went upstairs, took a shower. I was too afraid to go back down. I took some hot cocoa and I walked around the block outside for hours until the lights came on in the house. I was really trying to figure out how come my mother didn't know she was dead, and how am I supposed to tell her she's dead? I was totally confused, okay, because I was up in Plattsburgh, and being the baby, nobody told me, okay? So when we go the next day to my sister's house to get a telephone call, my brother-in-law has had a big mouth, and he says, okay, they said it's a homicide. A year before, I had that dream and I saw the gun. I saw the gun and they're wiping the blood off the walls. When he said homicide, I remembered the dream. It really scared me, that dream. So I kind of pushed it down. But when he said homicide, it all came back up. I knew who did it. I told them who did it. The guy next door, I think he was a junkie, but whatever. Apparently, she didn't know she was dead because she was sleeping when he came in and shot her. She was sleeping, so she didn't know she was dead. So
This came in as a vision to you in a dream?
I had a dream a year before. Psychically, my mother and I were close, but she had issues. Okay, so anyway, but I had this dream like a year before. So the gun and washing the walls. And my mother called me. I remember saying, oh, Mom. And then I was like, you don't want to tell her that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, so I didn't tell her. But I don't know if I was supposed to tell her. No, I don't want to know this. And it wasn't until, but it made sense because my mother didn't know she was dead. And I had to tell her. It was like weird.
What about describing heaven for us? For those of us that have never been there, how would you describe what you saw during your near-death experience?
The colors are not the same as you see here. The grass was tall and breezy. I mean, the colors. The peace. You don't get feelings like you have up there. It's awesome. It's, well, like I say, it changes you. You come back different because when you're up there, you realize that everything that you go through here in life is not that important because up there it didn't matter. It just, you're busy basking in the feelings of joy and peace and singing. And, oh, I do have to say, there is no sun or moon because God's light lights up the whole world of heaven, and we're all kind of connected in some way, I think, with the feelings of hope. That hope, love, and joy, and peace. And I didn't meet any family because that wasn't important. It was just what was important was just being, just being in this environment. Time probably passes by faster while I was up there, but I was taught. I know I was taught things because when I came back, I realized nothing really matters because what happened in the past is in the past. You can't go back and change it. What's going to happen in the future, you can't fix it before it happens, and it might not happen. So why worry about the future? And up there, like I said, it was sorry, family. I can't wait to go back. It was just, it's hard to really describe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, golden roads. I remember coming back, and the nurses probably thought I was crazy because most of the time I told them the whole experience. Most of the time I was awed by, the yellow brick road, and I forget what's in
The Wizard of Oz?
Yes. Well, these were real golden brick roads. And I mean, like I say, the colors are so much more vivid. And then some time ago, for some reason, I was led to read Revelation. Now, remember, I was raised Jewish. And yes, now I'm Messianic. That's a long story. I happened to turn into Revelation. I'm like, it's right there in Revelations. I said, oh my God, the golden roads. I mean, it's just, I thank you for having me, but I wish I can describe it better. But it's, don't be afraid of dying because, oh, heaven, oh my God. Heaven is so much more than people think it is. I do know God exists and heaven does too. It's not about physical things. It's more of a spiritual connection thing.
But you did experience some physical things like the Gold Road and some of the gardens that you saw.
We don't have words for it here.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I've heard that many times where it's very difficult for someone to put into words. And I can imagine it must be quite frustrating because it's in your head, right? You remember it, but it's an impossibility to describe.
What I'm thinking, we're not supposed to be able to. They have to have their own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
We're not supposed to. I have the feeling that we're not supposed to reveal everything. So we're not supposed to remember everything until, like I said, I was one day at a time. I'm like, okay.
And so during your near-death experience, did you at any time feel any presence with you at all? Or was it always alone?
I was alone, but I wasn't. because, like I said, it was like I didn't feel alone. To me, it didn't matter. It felt great. That's the best way I could put it. It didn't matter. I just felt great.
And when, since you came back, did you find that your abilities as a medium were those enhanced? They were
Yes,
enhanced since you came back?
yes, definitely.
Wow,
Much,
interesting.
much more so. Because as I grew up, I learned how to handle certain gifts that I didn't want. Now I can handle that. But no, now I understand more. I sometimes if I have a problem, I'll ask for help. But
What message would you give to those who are experiencing anxiety and fear about dying?
truthfully, that was me. I mean, I wear hearing aids. I was a bullied child. So I'm not, my mother had major issues that I had to live with. Um, I was in pretty, I've had problems. Nobody's perfect. Growing up as a child, I was about 14. You get scared of death. You wonder, is that all there is? Why are we born only to die? And see, I used to think there's nothing just going to be all black and, I've lived my life and I'm gone. I mean, I was scared to death. Now I can't wait. I'll be honest with you. I can't wait to go back. I'm not afraid. In fact, I wasn't afraid when I had the operation, but it was that peace and that calm before I even left. That's, oh gosh, 100-fold. It was, I'm trying not to cry. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I missed it. It's an experience. When I came home from the hospital a few days later, I woke up, had the face of a praying mantis. I don't know who you are. I said, get out of my life, and it scared the crap out of me. But that wasn't until after I got back. But I hadn't gone down there. I knew what that was. But I'm protected. I feel I'm protected. And
Well, then, wonderful. I had such a pleasure. It was a real pleasure speaking with you. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you've given us your time and shared your experience. Thank you so very much for that.
thank you for everything.